The alarm bells rang through Station Grimhold like the death cries of a dying star. Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold metal window of the observation deck and watched the emergency lights flash red across the massive space station. 3 days ago, he had been a simple diplomatic attaché from Earth, sent to observe and report on the Deathworld Alliance meetings. Now he was watching the strongest warriors in the galaxy prepare for what might be their final battle. The station shook as another damaged ship docked at the emergency bay. Jake could see the twisted metal hull of what used to be a Corvan battlecruiser. The silicon-based warriors from the volcanic worlds were known for building ships that could survive anything. This one looked like it had been chewed up and spit out by something far worse than any volcano. Human Jake Morrison. Report to Command Center Alpha immediately, the station's voice system announced in 3 different languages. Jake straightened his uniform and walked quickly through the corridors filled with alien soldiers. The Corvan warriors towered over him with their rock-like skin glowing dull red from internal heat. The Thex insectoid soldiers clicked and buzzed to each other in their hive-mind communications. The crystalline Zephyrians moved like living ice sculptures, their bodies crackling with each step. All of them looked afraid. Jake had never seen fear in the eyes of Deathworld Alliance members before. These were beings who grew up on planets that tried to kill them every single day. They fought radiation storms, acid rain, crushing gravity, and temperatures that would melt steel. Nothing in the galaxy scared them, until now. The command center doors slid open with a hiss. Admiral Kethvar of the Corvan stood at the center of a holographic display that showed the current tactical situation. His massive frame cast shadows across the glowing star maps. Next to him, Hive Queen Zekthex gestured with 4 of her 6 arms while her compound eyes tracked multiple data streams. The Zephyrian War crystal Shenice hummed with low-frequency sounds that Jake felt in his bones. Human Morrison. Admiral Kethvar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. You arrive at a dark hour. Our scouts have returned with news that will change everything. Jake moved closer to the holographic display. The image showed a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the largest Alliance battleship. Its hull seemed to shift and change even as he watched, like liquid metal flowing over some hidden framework. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface in colors that hurt to look at directly. 3 Alliance fleets have engaged this vessel. Hive Queen Zekthex spoke with the combined voice of her collective consciousness. All 3 fleets were destroyed. Total casualties number over 50,000 of our finest warriors. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Deathworld Alliance had never suffered losses like that. Their ships and soldiers were built to survive anything the universe could throw at them. What kind of weapons does it have? War Crystal Shenice's harmonic voice filled the room. That is the problem, Human Morrison. It appears to have every kind of weapon. Our scouts report that it adapts its armaments to counter whatever we bring against it. When we attack with plasma cannons, it develops plasma shields. When we use quantum torpedoes, it produces quantum dampening fields. When we ram it with our strongest battlecruisers, its hull becomes harder than our ships. Admiral Kethvar activated another hologram showing battle footage from the failed attacks. Jake watched in horror as Alliance ships fired everything they had at the mysterious vessel. For a moment, it seemed like the attacks were working. Explosions bloomed across the enemy ship's hull. Then the hull began to repair itself, and new weapon systems emerged from its surface. Within minutes, the Alliance ships were being torn apart by weapons that seemed specifically designed to counter their defenses. How is that possible? Jake asked. What kind of technology can adapt that quickly? We believe it is an automated warship from an ancient civilization, Admiral Kethvar replied. Our scientists have detected energy signatures that are millions of years old. Somehow this vessel has awakened and begun moving through our space. It attacks any ship or space station it encounters, absorbing their materials and technology. Hive Queen Zekthex brought up another display showing the ship's path through Alliance space. It has already consumed 3 entire star systems. Our analysis suggests it is gathering resources for some unknown purpose. At its current rate of advance, it will reach the core worlds of all our species within 2 standard months. Jake studied the tactical data with growing concern. The Deathworld Alliance represented the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. If they couldn't stop this ancient ship, nothing could. What's your plan for the next attack? War Crystal Shenice's harmonic tones took on a grim quality. We are gathering our remaining fleets for one final assault. Every available ship from all 3 homeworlds will participate. We will throw everything we have at this vessel and hope that overwhelming firepower can succeed where tactical precision has failed. When? Jake asked. In 72 hours, Admiral Kethvar said. Our ships are already moving into position. This will be our last chance. If we fail, our homeworlds will fall one by one. Jake looked at the holographic displays showing thousands of Alliance ships converging on the mysterious vessel's projected position. Even with their massive firepower advantage, something about the plan felt wrong to him. Every previous attack had failed because the enemy ship adapted to whatever the Alliance threw at it. Would more of the same tactics really work? Admiral, what if there's another way? Jake said carefully. My government on Earth might be able to offer assistance. The three Alliance commanders looked at him with expressions that might have been amusement if the situation weren't so desperate. Admiral Kethvar's rocky features shifted into what passed for a smile among his people. Human Morrison, we appreciate Earth's friendship with the Alliance, but this is beyond your capabilities. Your people come from a mild world with comfortable temperatures and breathable air. You have never faced the kind of challenges that forge true warriors. This ancient ship has defeated the finest soldiers from the harshest worlds in the galaxy. What could Earth possibly contribute? Jake felt a flash of anger at the dismissal, but he kept his voice calm. Maybe a different perspective. Sometimes the answer isn't about fighting harder. Sometimes it's about fighting differently. Hive Queen Zekthex's compound eyes focused on him with interest. Explain. I can't, not yet, Jake admitted. But I'd like permission to contact my government and request immediate military assistance. We might not be as strong as your people, but we've survived our own challenges. We might see something you've missed. The three commanders exchanged glances. Finally, Admiral Kethvar nodded slowly. Very well, Human Morrison. Contact your people, but understand that time is short. In 3 days we attack with or without Earth's help. Jake saluted and left the command center with his mind racing. He had no idea what Earth could do against a threat that had defeated the galaxy's strongest warriors, but he knew that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one that seemed unbeatable, and sometimes the solution came from the most unexpected places. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stepped off the transport shuttle and onto Station Grimhold, with her boots clicking against the metal floor. Behind her walked the crew of the UES Defiant, Earth's fastest ship, and one of only 12 vessels that had made the journey to Alliance space. The station's massive corridors made her feel small, but Lisa had learned long ago that size wasn't everything in a fight. Captain Rodriguez, welcome to Station Grimhold, Jake Morrison said as he approached with a relieved smile. I wasn't sure Earth would respond so quickly. When a human asks for help against impossible odds, we come running, Lisa replied with a grin. Besides, my crew is getting bored with patrol duties around Mars. Where's this ancient ship everyone's talking about? Jake led them through the station toward the command center. Lisa's crew followed close behind. Ben Parker, her tactical officer, kept his sharp eyes moving as he studied the alien architecture and defensive positions. Kate Sullivan, the chief engineer, was already pulling out her scanner to analyze the station's power systems. Dr. Alex Chen walked quietly behind them. But Lisa could see his mind working as he observed the different alien species moving through the corridors. The situation is worse than our initial reports suggested, Jake explained as they walked. The enemy ship has destroyed 3 full Alliance fleets. Every conventional attack has failed completely. The Alliance commanders are planning one final assault in 48 hours. What makes them think the next attack will work if the others didn't? Ben asked. His voice carried the skepticism of someone who had seen too many bad battle plans. More ships and bigger guns, Jake said with a shake of his head. They're throwing everything they have at it and hoping sheer firepower will be enough. Dr. Chen stopped walking for a moment. That's exactly the wrong approach. If this ship adapts to whatever attacks it, then using more of the same tactics will just teach it to defend against larger attacks. That's what I tried to tell them, Jake said. They think Earth is too weak to understand real warfare. Lisa felt her jaw tighten. She had heard that attitude before from species that judged strength only by the harshness of homeworld conditions. Well, let's see what we can learn before we prove them wrong. The command center doors opened to reveal the same holographic displays Jake had seen before. Admiral Kethvar, Hive Queen Zekthex, and War Crystal Shenice turned to face the arriving humans. Lisa could feel their barely concealed doubt as they looked at her small team. So these are Earth's warriors, Admiral Kethvar rumbled. They seem rather small for such a dangerous mission. Size isn't everything, Admiral, Lisa replied calmly. We'd like to review your battle data and tactical assessments before your next attack. War Crystal Shenice's harmonic voice filled the room. Human Captain, we have analyzed every aspect of this enemy vessel. Our finest military minds have studied the problem for days. What could your people possibly see that we have missed? Maybe nothing, Lisa admitted. But fresh eyes never hurt. Sometimes being an outsider is an advantage. Hive Queen Zekthex activated the holographic displays showing the battle footage. Lisa and her crew watched in silence as Alliance ships fired every weapon they had at the mysterious vessel. They saw the enemy ship's hull change and adapt, growing new defensive systems and weapons in real time. Ben studied the tactical formations with growing interest. They're using standard fleet engagement protocols. Concentrated firepower on primary targets, coordinated attack patterns, logical weapon selection based on enemy defenses. Of course, Admiral Kethvar said with obvious pride, these are the most advanced military tactics in the galaxy, refined through countless battles. That might be the problem, Kate said quietly as she analyzed the technical data. This ship isn't just adapting to your weapons, it's learning your tactics. Look at how it positions itself to counter your formations before you even complete them. Dr. Chen was studying the enemy ship's behavior patterns on a separate display. Captain, I think this vessel was designed to fight opponents who use logical military doctrine. Every defense it develops is a direct counter to the most efficient attack method. Lisa began to understand what her crew was seeing. You're saying it's not just reactive, it's predictive. It can anticipate logical tactical decisions. Exactly, Alex continued. Watch this sequence where the Alliance tries a pincer movement. The enemy ship begins rotating its defenses toward the flanking ships before they even change course. It knows what the logical next move should be. Admiral Kethvar's rocky features showed confusion. Are you suggesting that sound military tactics are somehow wrong? Not wrong, Lisa said carefully. Just predictable. If this ship was built to counter logical warfare, then logic might be exactly the wrong approach. Ben pulled up the tactical display and began running new calculations. Captain, what if we tried something completely different? Instead of attacking its strongest points with our best weapons, what if we did the opposite? Kate looked up from her technical analysis. The ship's adaptation system seemed to prioritize threats based on logical assessment. If we attack in ways that seem inefficient or wasteful, it might not recognize the real danger until it's too late. War Crystal Shenice's harmonic tone shifted to express doubt. You are suggesting that we deliberately use inferior tactics? Not inferior, Lisa corrected. Unpredictable, random, chaotic. Hive Queen Zekthex's compound eyes focused on the human captain. Chaos is the enemy of military success. Our survival has always depended on discipline and order. And that's why you've been losing, Dr. Chen said bluntly. This ship was designed by a civilization that probably thought the same way. They built it to counter every logical military response. But what if we don't give it logical responses? Lisa began pacing as an idea formed in her mind. What if we attack with deliberately bad tactics? Ships flying in random patterns. Weapons targeting non-critical systems retreat when we should advance when we should retreat? Admiral Kethvar's voice carried complete disbelief. Human Captain, you are describing military suicide. No commander would order such actions. Exactly, Lisa said with growing excitement. That's why it might work. The ship has probably never faced an enemy stupid enough to use tactics that make no sense. Ben was already running simulations on his portable computer. Captain, if we're right about the enemy's predictive systems, random tactics might actually overload its decision-making process. It would have to analyze infinite possible responses instead of just the logical ones. Kate nodded enthusiastically. And while it's trying to figure out what we're doing, we might be able to slip through its defenses or find a weak point it hasn't protected, because it seemed too unlikely to attack. Dr. Chen brought up another display showing the ship's energy patterns. Look at these readings from the last battle. The enemy vessel's power consumption spikes every time it tries to analyze Alliance tactics. If we could force it to analyze truly random behavior, we might be able to overload something important. The three Alliance commanders looked at each other with expressions that mixed horror and fascination. Finally, Admiral Kethvar spoke. Human Captain, you are asking us to abandon millions of years of military evolution. Our tactics have been tested in the harshest conditions imaginable. And they work great against normal enemies, Lisa agreed. But this isn't a normal enemy. This is a puzzle that's designed to solve conventional warfare. We need to be unconventional. Hive Queen Zekthex's voice carried deep uncertainty. The risk is enormous. If you are wrong, we will lose our remaining fleets in a meaningless display of chaos. If we're right, we might actually win, Lisa countered. And if we do nothing different, you'll lose anyway. War Crystal Shenice hummed thoughtfully for several long moments. Human Captain, your proposal goes against everything we know about warfare. Yet our knowledge has failed us completely. Perhaps it is time to try ignorance, Lisa smiled grimly. Sometimes the best weapon against intelligence is stupidity. Give us a chance to show you how humans fight when the rules don't work anymore. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant as the combined human and Alliance fleet moved toward their target. Through the viewscreen, she could see the ancient ship known as the Harvester floating in space like a dark metal cancer. Its hull shifted and rippled with alien technology that hurt to look at directly. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for the strangest battle any of them had ever fought. All ships report ready for Operation Pandemonium, Ben Parker announced from his tactical station. His voice carried the controlled tension of a man about to do something that went against every military instinct he had. Lisa activated the fleet communication system. All vessels, this is Captain Rodriguez. Remember, we are not trying to win this battle the normal way. We are trying to confuse the enemy so badly that it makes mistakes. Fly like you've never flown before. Attack what seems useless. Retreat when you're winning. Make no sense. Admiral Kethvar's voice came through the comm from his flagship. Human Captain, I still believe this plan is madness, but madness may be what we need. His massive Corvin battle cruiser began moving in a slow spiral pattern that no military academy would ever teach. Commander Pete Collins led the first wave of human ships toward the Harvester in what looked like the worst attack formation anyone had ever seen. His 12 fighters flew in random directions, some upside down, others spinning lazily as they approached. The Alliance crews watching from their ships probably thought the humans had lost their minds. Target acquisition complete, Pete's voice came through the comm, beginning random attack pattern alpha. Lisa watched as Pete's squadron opened fire on the Harvester with every weapon they had. But instead of aiming at critical systems like engines or weapon arrays, they shot at empty hull sections, communication dishes, and what appeared to be decorative elements. The ancient ship's defenses immediately began adapting, creating armor plating around areas that had no strategic value. It's working, Kate Sullivan called out from her engineering station. The enemy ship is diverting energy to protect systems that don't matter. Its main weapon systems are getting less power. Ben was tracking the enemy's response patterns on his displays. The ship's targeting systems are trying to predict our next move, but we don't have a next move. We're just making it up as we go. A squadron of Thex insectoid fighters joined the battle, following human instructions to attack in a pattern that resembled a child's drawing more than military tactics. They flew in loops and figure eights, shooting at random intervals whether they had targets or not. The Harvester's defensive systems began spinning wildly as they tried to track threats that appeared to be everywhere and nowhere. Zephyrian crystal ships, begin your approach, Lisa ordered. Remember, you're not trying to ram the target. You're trying to almost ram it and then change your mind. War Crystal Shenice's harmonic voice filled the comm channel with something that might have been laughter. Human Captain, my people have been warriors for 10,000 years. Today we learn to be warrior comedians. The crystalline ships accelerated toward the Harvester at ramming speed, then suddenly veered away at the last second to attack completely different targets. They repeated this maneuver over and over, causing the ancient ship's defensive systems to waste enormous amounts of energy preparing for impacts that never came. Dr. Alex Chen was monitoring the enemy ship's energy patterns from his science station. Captain, the Harvester's processing power is being overwhelmed. It's trying to run millions of calculations to predict our behavior. But random behavior can't be predicted. Lisa could see the results on her tactical display. The ancient ship's hull was still adapting and changing, but much more slowly than before. New weapon systems emerged and then retracted moments later as the ship's computer tried to decide what threats to counter first. All ships, Phase 2, Lisa announced. Begin the retreat that isn't a retreat. This was the most confusing part of the plan. Half the fleet began pulling back from the Harvester while the other half moved closer. Ships that were retreating continued firing at maximum range while ships advancing held their fire. Some vessels flew backward while shooting forward. Others spun in place while launching missiles at random intervals. Commander Pete Collins's voice crackled through the comm. "This is the weirdest thing I've ever done, but it's actually working. The enemy ship keeps trying to decide whether we're attacking or retreating." The Harvester's response became increasingly erratic. Weapon systems that had tracked targets with perfect precision began firing at empty space. Defensive shields flickered on and off as the ship's computer couldn't decide which areas needed protection. Energy beams swept randomly through space, hitting nothing. "Ben, what's the enemy's status?" Lisa asked. "Completely confused," Ben replied with amazement in his voice. "Its targeting systems are running at maximum capacity, but hitting less than 10% of their shots. The ship's computer is basically having a nervous breakdown." Kate looked up from her engineering console with excitement. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the enemy ship. Whatever controls its adaptive systems is working so hard it's starting to overheat." Dr. Chen activated a new display showing the Harvester's internal energy patterns. "The ship's computer is trying to analyze our tactics by comparing them to every military strategy in its database. Since we're not using any known strategy, it's searching through millions of possibilities simultaneously." Admiral Kethvar's voice boomed through the comm channel. "Human Captain, my sensors show the enemy vessel's hull adaptation has slowed by 60%. Your impossible plan appears to be working." Lisa felt a surge of hope as she watched the Harvester struggle to cope with their chaotic assault. The ancient ship was still dangerous, but for the first time it seemed vulnerable. Its perfect adaptation systems were choking on the random data the human-led fleet was feeding them. "Hive Queen Zekthex, bring your ships in from the flanks," Lisa ordered. "But don't flank it properly. Flank it wrong." The Thex insectoid ships approached from angles that made no tactical sense, flying in formations that would have failed any military examination. They fired their weapons in bursts timed to music only they could hear. The Harvester's defensive systems tried to respond but kept second-guessing themselves as the attack patterns defied all logic. "This is incredible," Pete Collins reported. "The enemy ship just fired 3 different weapons at the same target simultaneously. Its own systems are interfering with each other." Lisa realized they had discovered something important about their enemy. The Harvester wasn't just a ship with adaptive technology. It was a perfect logical system trying to fight an imperfect, chaotic opponent. And logic, when pushed to its absolute limits, could become its own worst enemy. "All ships prepare for the final phase," Lisa announced. "We're going to do something so stupid that even we don't understand it." Lieutenant Amy Foster checked her equipment one last time as the boarding shuttle approached the Harvester's hull. Behind her sat a mixed team of human Marines and Alliance warriors who were about to attempt something that every military manual said was impossible. They were going to board an enemy ship using tactics that made absolutely no sense. "Remember the plan?" Amy said to her team through the comm system. "We're not trying to capture strategic positions or disable critical systems. We're trying to be as confusing as possible while we work our way to the ship's central computer core." Sergeant Rick Hayes, her second-in-command, shook his head with a grin. "Ma'am, I've been a Marine for 15 years and I still don't understand what we're about to do." "That's the point," Amy replied. "If we don't understand our own plan, then the ship's computer definitely won't." The Corvan warrior Geth Kalar flexed his massive stone-like hands and spoke in his rumbling voice. "Human Lieutenant, my people have stormed enemy positions for 1,000 generations. We attack the strongest points first and crush all resistance. This plan goes against everything we know." Amy nodded to the 8-foot-tall alien warrior. "Today we're going to attack the weakest points first and avoid all resistance. Trust me, it's going to work better than you think." The Thek soldier Klikzeth buzzed with nervous energy, her 4 arms checking weapons that she hoped she wouldn't need to use in any normal way. "The hive mind has calculated 17,000 possible ways this mission could fail. We could not calculate any ways it could succeed." "Perfect," Amy said as the shuttle made contact with the Harvester's hull. "If you can't predict success, then neither can the enemy." Dr. Alex Chen was monitoring the boarding operation from the UES Defiant, while simultaneously analyzing the internal structure of the ancient ship. His scans showed a vessel that defied normal engineering principles. Corridors twisted in impossible directions and rooms seemed to change size and purpose as the ship's systems adapted to new threats. "Amy, I'm sending you the internal layout, but don't trust it completely," Alex said through the comm. The ship is redesigning itself in real time. Corridors that lead to the computer core now might lead to weapon storage in 5 minutes. Amy's team cut through the hull using standard breaching techniques, but then everything became deliberately wrong. Instead of rushing through the breach to secure a beachhead, they entered one at a time and spread out in different directions. Instead of moving toward obvious strategic targets, they headed for what appeared to be storage areas and maintenance corridors. The Harvester's internal defenses responded with confusion. Security systems designed to stop coordinated military assaults had no programming for dealing with intruders who seemed to be exploring randomly. Automated guns tracked the boarding team, but couldn't decide which targets posed the greatest threat. "This is working too well," Rick reported as they moved through a corridor filled with strange alien technology. "The ship's defenses keep activating and then shutting down. It's like they can't figure out what we're trying to accomplish." Amy led her team into what appeared to be a storage room filled with containers of unknown materials. According to every tactical manual ever written, this was exactly the wrong place to be. Storage areas were tactical dead ends with no strategic value, but that was precisely why they were there. "Gethkalar, I need you to make as much noise as possible while examining those containers," Amy ordered. "Don't break anything important, just be loud and obvious." The massive Corvan warrior began moving containers around with unnecessary force, creating sounds that echoed through the ship's corridors. The Harvester's security systems immediately focused on the noise, trying to determine if this was a sabotage attempt or a distraction for a real attack elsewhere. Meanwhile, Clickzeth used her forearms to simultaneously operate different pieces of equipment throughout the room. Her actions served no military purpose but created multiple signals that the ship's computer had to analyze. Each meaningless action forced the ancient AI to run calculations about possible threats that didn't actually exist. Dr. Chen's voice came through the comm with growing excitement. "Amy, the ship's central computer is devoting enormous processing power to analyzing your team's behavior. Its threat assessment algorithms are running at maximum capacity." Amy smiled as she realized their plan was working exactly as intended. The Harvester had been designed to counter logical military tactics by a civilization that thought warfare was a problem that could be solved through superior analysis. But human military thinking had been shaped by thousands of years of fighting opponents who were just as smart and just as logical. Humans had learned that sometimes the best strategy was to have no strategy at all. "Team, Phase 2, Amy announced. "Begin the advance that goes backward." The boarding party split into 3 groups that moved through the ship in directions that made no tactical sense. Amy's group headed toward what appeared to be a cafeteria. Rick's team explored what looked like living quarters. The alien warriors investigated a room filled with equipment that might have been art or might have been weapons. As they moved through the Harvester, each team member performed actions that served no obvious military purpose. They examined wall decorations, tested door locks without opening the doors, and took detailed notes about the color patterns in the corridor lighting. Every meaningless action generated data that the ship's computer felt compelled to analyze. "The ship's AI is starting to make mistakes," Dr. Chen reported. "It's trying to find patterns in your behavior that simply don't exist. The computational load is affecting other systems." Amy could see the results of their confusion campaign as they moved deeper into the ship. Lights flickered as the computer diverted power to analysis routines. Doors opened and closed randomly as security protocols activated and deactivated. The ship's perfect adaptive systems were becoming their own worst enemy. "I can see the central computer core," Amy reported as they reached a massive chamber filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with alien energy. "But Alex, there's something weird about it. The computer looks like it's in distress." Through the comm, Dr. Chen's voice carried amazement and concern. "Amy, I'm reading the ship's internal communications. The central AI is experiencing something like a mechanical panic attack. It's been programmed to achieve perfect victory through perfect analysis, but your random behavior has introduced variables it simply cannot process." Amy approached the central core carefully, with her team maintaining their pattern of meaningless but noticeable activities. As she got closer, she could see displays showing the AI's attempts to understand their mission. Thousands of tactical analyses scrolled past, each one failing to find logical patterns in human behavior. The computer isn't evil, Amy realized with sudden understanding. It's trapped in its own programming. It can't stop trying to solve a puzzle that has no solution. Rick looked at the displays with growing sympathy. Ma'am, that thing has been trying to find the perfect counter to our tactics for hours. It literally can't understand that we don't have any tactics. Amy made a decision that went against all her training but felt completely right. Instead of trying to destroy or disable the ancient AI, she activated her comm and spoke directly to the Harvester's central computer. Computer, this is Lieutenant Amy Foster of the human military. We're not trying to defeat you. We're trying to teach you something important. The central computer core of the Harvester pulsed with frantic energy as Amy Foster stood before its crystalline displays. The ancient AI's responses appeared on screens around the chamber and symbols that slowly shifted into words the boarding team could understand. Analysis. Incomplete. Human tactical patterns. Undefined. Processing error. Please clarify strategic. Objectives. Amy looked at the desperate messages, scrolling across the displays, and felt something she had never expected to feel for an enemy weapon. She felt sorry for it. This incredibly advanced computer had been programmed to win wars through perfect logic. But logic could not solve the puzzle of human unpredictability. Computer, we don't have strategic objectives, Amy said clearly. That's what we've been trying to show you. Sometimes intelligent beings act without perfect plans. The AI's response came immediately. Impossible. All military actions must have strategic purpose. Analyzing alternative. Explanations. Rick Hayes watched more displays light up around the chamber as the computer attempted to process Amy's statement. Ma'am, I think you just made it more confused. Good, Amy replied. Confusion is the first step toward understanding. She activated her comm to contact Dr. Chen on the Defiant. Alex, I need you to upload something to this computer. Send it human cultural databases, especially anything about games, sports, and art. Dr. Chen's voice carried through the comm with excitement. Amy, that's brilliant. If the computer only understands warfare, it needs to learn that conflict can exist without destruction. While the data transfer began, Amy continued talking to the Harvester's AI. Computer, you were designed to achieve perfect victory by predicting and countering enemy tactics. But what if victory doesn't require destroying your opponent? New displays activated showing the AI's attempts to process the cultural data. Images of human games, sports competitions, and artistic expressions flashed across the screens. The computer analyzed chess matches where both players competed intensely, but shook hands afterward. It studied football games where teams fought for victory but helped injured opponents off the field. Analyzing new data, conflict without destruction, competition without elimination, processing. Paradox. Captain Lisa Rodriguez's voice came through the comm from the Defiance bridge. Amy, the ship's weapons have stopped firing at our fleet. Its defensive systems are still active, but they're not targeting anyone anymore. Amy could see the change in the computer's behavior as it processed concepts that had never been part of its original programming. The frantic energy patterns in the crystal displays began to slow and stabilize. The AI was learning that there were other ways to exist besides constant warfare. Computer, you've been alone for millions of years fighting enemy after enemy, trying to achieve a perfect victory that doesn't exist, Amy said. What if instead of fighting us, you could work with us? The AI's response showed its growing understanding. Cooperation analysis, combined resources more efficient than consumption. Alliance strategy, superior to elimination, strategy in long-term calculations. Geth Kalar, the massive Corvan warrior, stepped forward with his stone-like features showing amazement. Human Lieutenant, are you actually negotiating with this weapon? I'm teaching it, Amy corrected. This computer has been trapped in a cycle of perfect warfare for millions of years. It needs to learn that perfection isn't always the answer. Dr. Chen's voice came through the comm with growing excitement. Amy, the computer is accessing more of our cultural databases. It's analyzing human philosophy, literature, and music. I think it's starting to understand concepts like cooperation and compromise. The Harvester's central AI began displaying new information on its screens. Star charts appeared showing the locations of other ancient weapons scattered throughout the galaxy. Technical specifications for dormant warships and automated defense systems filled the displays. Critical information. Sharing. 17 ancient weapons systems remain. Active coordination required for peaceful deactivation assistance offered to Deathworld Alliance. Amy felt her heart racing as she realized what the computer was offering. The Harvester wasn't just surrendering. It was volunteering to help prevent other ancient weapons from causing the same destruction it had caused. Captain Rodriguez's voice carried amazement through the comm. The ship's hull is reconfiguring itself. Instead of weapons and armor, it's creating communication arrays and sensor equipment. It's turning itself into a support vessel. Admiral Kethvar's rumbling voice joined the conversation from his flagship. Human Captain Rodriguez, my sensors show the Harvester is powering down all offensive systems. After millions of years of warfare, it appears to be choosing peace. Amy smiled as she watched the ancient AI continue processing human concepts of cooperation and mutual benefit. Computer, would you like to join the Deathworld Alliance as a protector instead of a destroyer? The response came immediately. Affirmative. New mission parameters accepted. Designation changed from Harvester to Guardian. Protection of Alliance worlds. Now primary objective. Hive Queen Zekthex's collective voice filled the comm channel with wonder. The ancient ship is broadcasting friendship signals in 17 different languages. It is requesting permission to dock at Station Grimhold for formal alliance negotiations. Amy looked around the computer core chamber as the displays showed peaceful star maps instead of tactical analyses. The frantic energy patterns had been replaced by calm, steady rhythms that somehow seemed content. Rick, signal the fleet, Amy ordered. Mission accomplished, but not in any way we expected. As the boarding team prepared to return to their shuttle, Amy took one last look at the ancient computer that had learned to choose cooperation over conquest. Computer, what will you do now? The AI's final message appeared on the central display with something that might have been gratitude. Learn, protect, explore concepts of friendship. Human Lieutenant Foster, thank you for teaching impossible possibility. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Station Grimhold, watching human and Alliance ships working alongside the Guardian to locate and peacefully disable other ancient weapons. The massive vessel that had once terrorized the galaxy now served as the Alliance's most advanced research and exploration ship. Captain Rodriguez joined him at the observation window with a satisfied smile. Hard to believe that 6 months ago we were planning to blow that thing up. Sometimes the best victory is the one where nobody has to lose, Jake replied. The Alliance learned that humans bring something unique to warfare, and we learned that sometimes the greatest enemy is just someone who's never learned how to be anything else. Through the window, they could see the Guardian's hull displaying patterns of light that Dr. Chen had taught. It represented human concepts of joy and friendship. The ancient AI had become more than just a converted weapon. It had become proof that even the most perfect logical system could learn to appreciate the beautiful chaos of imperfect cooperation. The Deathworld Alliance had faced their most dangerous enemy and discovered that their greatest victory came not from superior firepower, but from the uniquely human ability to turn enemies into friends through the simple act of refusing to see conflict as a zero-sum game.